Hey, it's I Sleep Too Late. Figured I'd make a video just talking about stuff, and I came across this post on Pokemon TCG from Little Payment 9512. This was 20 days ago, so pretty recent. Asking for help with a toxic Pokemon community. Basically, there's a toxic group of players and judges, already reported one. Now me and my sister banned for 90 days because two of them went after us even though I showed proof we had nothing to do with them, but LGS played it safe and banned all four of us. So I'm going to go ahead and read this since it is kind of long and lengthy, but basically they're saying that this is their first post. Honestly, they need some advice. Used to play Pokemon when I was younger, but just started playing again with my kids and going to locals almost 2 years ago. At first, I would play weird decks or just for fun and would go 0-3 or 1-2 at locals. That means they lost 3 times or they won once and lost twice. Just this season, I started playing more competitive and constantly topping/winning cups and challenges, and that's when the problems begin. We have a couple of competitive players who gatekeep and are just rude to anybody not in their group. Since becoming more competitive, I've won match after match against them, or flat out 2-0 them, more than 10 matches in a row, and I try to say something about it to not make their loss so hard, like I just say I drew the lucky card or something. Well, we have one player, C, who can't take a loss, always complaining when he loses, and helps his friends in cups and challenges by telling them what to do while behind them. The other player, K, got banned from Yu-Gi-Oh!, cheats almost any way possible, from sleight of hand to technicalities, slow play, rushing you, even trying to damage your cards and sleeves, then calling a judge for your marked cards. Wow. He is a judge and uses that to either rule his own games by giving the opponent penalties, or if you catch him in a lie, he says he's right because he's a judge. The other player, T, used to be the main judge and was the worst because he would use that to change match results in his friend's favor. Not allow you to play in tournaments by placing caps and replacing your spot with another player, stealing from LGS and players, even started lying saying he dated my sister and was very rude to her as a new player when I brought her into Pokemon. But after a complaint to TPCI, I don't know what that is, he stepped down but is still part of the drama. This one girl, we'll call her G, who 9 out of 10 games is unbearable, always complaining, saying she hates this game, rudely saying, ugh, just go, when things don't go her way, always on her phone, really just a pain to play against, and whenever you ask nicely for respect, she starts going off. She will not say anything to you, but behind your back is another story. Lastly, this one player, M, is now the worst. He can't accept a loss if he loses to someone. He cusses them and storms out, then argues over Discord or text or phone calls with them, but never in person. He got donked by Poison and stormed out cussing and arguing with the player on Discord last time months ago. Poison, I would imagine, is a mechanic in the game that they're referring to, not actual Poison. But since he only goes every once in a while, we kind of just ignore it. Well, I got paired with him in a challenge months ago, but since until that point, I haven't played him and he's never done anything to me. I treated him like a normal player and just played the game. Game 1, I prized 3 Mirage Gates and they end up being my last 3 prizes, so I flip them over and scoop. Game 2, I win easily and he just storms off. He comes back with a soda and I think maybe blood sugar or something. But judge comes to our table. He apparently called the judge saying my cards were fake or disqualify me. Then, once confirmed real, tries to say cards are marked. Judge shuffles my deck and cannot pick out said marked cards. I still swap them out with extras I have just to be safe. Judge just gives a warning. All right. M continues to attempt to call for some sort of penalty multiple times, and each time judge says it's a warning, like what does he want him to do, and that his decision is final. At that point, M asks for a time extension. We got it, but a player like that I personally do not want to play against, so I give him the win and tell him as a man I don't want to play him after those actions. Time passes, we don't see him for a while, and last Tuesday, he shows up to locals. We get paired up round 2, and I don't think he has held a grudge this long, so I say, what's up, bump fist, and play like normal, and I end up winning. He leaves, doesn't say anything, and after locals, he's the first to leave. Later, after rounds conclude outside of locals, the same girl, G, that causes issues, continues with her problems, tries to get me involved, I walk away. Later, she comes up to me saying that I called her I don't know what that word is. Like what? I just tell her no, and she starts talking to herself. I just leave at that point and say goodbye to my friends. After leaving, she contacts M, who I beat round two, and gives him my sister's phone number and calls threatening her. At the same time, calling us out on Discord to get banned, this and that. My sister posts a screenshot of caller ID with his name on it. He calls my sister something related to blah, 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 publicly on Discord. I don't post anything or respond because this is just childish behavior, but I screenshot all of it. Keep in mind, person, they don't say or do anything. Everything is done from the safety of their own homes. Next day, they contact that LGS and complain they both don't feel safe. They're in this whole story that makes them look like the good guys. I just show them the screenshots and wonder why I'm part of this just because they posted our name. Well, this LGS has already gotten in trouble with, oh, I think that's the Pokemon card something, for buying and selling stamped league cards. The owner is getting sued as he is a very shady businessman. We all receive a 90-day ban, and I'm wondering, so anybody can just throw your name out and you get banned? What can I do? All right, well, first of all, I agree with the top commenter here that the paragraphs are your friend, and this person clearly should have indented or made this a little bit more organized, because right now it is just a block of text that is unreadable. I would say, as someone who's come from similar communities or who has gone to similar communities, who's been to multiple LGSs, you know, I come from Magic, I come from Yu-Gi-Oh! If you've been in my channel, you know that I play Pokemon. I play Pokemon, the video game. I play a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! Or I collect Yu-Gi-Oh! And I also play mostly Magic. But this is toxic behavior, and honestly, I mean, this person unfortunately didn't get as much public attention. Only 33% upvoted, but it's because people felt like, just reading from the comments, you know, it's just a lot of negativity. People downvote negativity when it comes to drama, right? And for the most part, sometimes they don't agree with the poster. Sometimes they feel like the poster is in the wrong. I feel like most of the time, these kind of posts don't get enough attention because they just get downvoted to begin with, not well organized. So you end up just getting it lost in the shuffle. But I would say there's a lot going on here, and I'd probably just leave this LGS entirely. I wouldn't go back, and I would just kind of block out those people that were mentioned, these other letters here. So I've gone through similar situations where you have somebody who holds a grudge on you, and they will do everything in their power to to ruin your life, right? You just got to ignore that, right? Because you don't want any part of that. I think there was a short I watched several months ago where someone's driving their car and they turn left on a traffic light, and the car in front of them is PO'd. Guy gets out of the car and starts yelling and approaching the car, and the dad is like, okay, I'm out. Just drives around the car, proceeds to go into the parking lot, just kind of goes away from the situation. And the kid is like, what was going on there? And something along those lines. And the dad's like, I don't know, but I'm not going to stick around to find out, right? I think that's the kind of mentality that you need to have when it comes to bullying. And boy, have I been bullied a lot in my life, from the gaming community to other communities. You know, just overall, it's toxic out there, and you just have to kind of associate with the right people. You don't want any part of this game store. They're talking about how there's a lawsuit going on, there's shady businessmen. I would just kind of avoid this type of community. And you know, Pokemon is a great game. As you know, there is a huge drama about, you know, the card game and how people are buying and reselling and scalping the market. And I've watched all those videos. I watch it on YouTube Shorts. I watch it on regular YouTube. I hear about it in streams. It's not a secret that Pokemon is getting bigger and bigger, and the game is just kind of blowing up right now post COVID. Right now we're in a weird economic time. In spite of that, people are buying Pokemon like crazy. Sword and Shield era, all of that is just getting completely blown up. And I would say that in times like these, I personally don't have any money invested in the card game. I do play Pokemon TCG Pocket, but I don't have anything invested in paper cards. I also stopped buying Magic cards, honestly. I stopped buying paper Magic cards. I do still play, Arena and Magic Online. I feel like those are much preferable platforms of gameplay for me. I like, if I want to play Magic, I'll play on these online communities. But when it comes to paper games like this, you get into situations like this where you face bullying and people who are toxic, you don't want any part of that. Now, I do have some good LGSs around me. There are some good LGSs. I'm not saying every LGS is bad, but especially during COVID, going to an LGS was scary. It can be scary. There's a lot of risks to it. People talking about ruining your cards or bending your cards, or having them touch your cards, manipulate your cards. This is why people double sleeve their cards, because there's always that risk that it could fall. Maybe they flip a coin and it lands on the card. Maybe they did that intentionally. You never know, right? I try my best to avoid paper gameplay if I can, whether it's Magic, whether it's Yu-Gi-Oh. I try to just avoid it, because there's no point in having somebody touch around your cards, mess around with what you're playing with. I don't bring my cards out anymore. I mean, if you've been around my channel, you've seen my Yu-Gi-Oh collection. You know how expensive some of these cards are. It's just not worth it. Proxying is your friend. If you're not going to go to an official tournament, I highly recommend you just get proxies, or proxy yourself, get a printer, and just try to play with your friends. Like, don't bring cards that are worth thousands of dollars with you to a store with a bunch of strangers, some of whom may be criminals, people stealing. I'll tell you a story. It was around 2010, 11, something like that. I started going to LGSs. My first LGS experience was with Yu-Gi-Oh! And I was playing Final Countdown. If you don't know what that deck is, it's basically like a stall deck. And I actually did pretty well. I beat everyone except for another Final Countdown deck. And I ended up getting to know some of the regulars. That game store doesn't exist anymore, but the regulars, I mean, part of the reason why I switched to Magic was because the regulars were so, quite frankly, they were evil. One of them was telling me how he would go out and try to, he would make a YouTube video, right? He would make a YouTube video where he'd be like, here are my trades, and I'm willing to exchange, ship these out to you if you ship out your cards to me. Just let me know what your trades are. And he would do this over YouTube, and the person, or the victim of the scam, would ship out their cards, and they wouldn't ship out their cards, and they would use a PO box to ship out that they would have shipped out their cards, so they can't be traced. And so what happens is the person who ships out their cards first, they never get anything back from the YouTuber. The YouTuber just takes the stuff that gets shipped, that gets mailed to them, and runs away with it. They get their YouTube channel reported, they shut down the YouTube channel, they make a new YouTube channel where they do the same thing over and over and over again. And when I heard that story, I was like, this is so evil, I mean, some of them also kind of stole stuff, like borderline theft. Maybe they were trying to get into a trade and literally scammed their trade partner. It's just crazy out there. And the more I started playing card games, trading card games, whether it's Yu-Gi-Oh, whether you're playing Pokemon TCG, or these newer ones like One Piece, Sorcery, what is it, Flesh and Blood. I personally would rather not go to a game store in person, risk getting COVID or the flu, having to risk getting my card stolen or getting bullied. There's some real risks to all of this. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I mean, this person's saying if someone intentionally tried to damage my cards while playing, I would fist fight them like hello. Yeah, like you don't mess with that. Like if someone's trying to damage your cards, I wouldn't play with them. And if people are doing that on a regular basis, I wouldn't go to that game store. And in fact, this is why it's so hard to run a game store. This is why you have people like Rudy from Alpha Investments, who's just making these, insane videos and is running a game store. Not really running, like, I consider Rudy to be a game store, right? He's not really having a physical game store, but he's shipping things out to his patrons and he's making a bunch of sales. So that to me is a game store. He's not an LGS by the technical terms, but he is a seller nonetheless. So, and he does Pokemon cards and all that. So that's more of like an investment channel. Honestly, good for him. I think that would probably be the future of selling cards. Do it online, do it on Patreon, or do it on the TCG marketplace. There's a bunch of places you can sell on eBay. Why do you want to run a store? Do you have any idea how expensive it is to have a game store? It's expensive. It's you gotta pay for the actual land, like the property, the store itself. You have to pay for the supplies, the electricity, water, all while having to make sales that every time you buy, like you buy a box of cards for what, like, I don't know, let's just say $80, and you sell it for $100. You're only making $20 profit, but you had to put in like $80 up front. And then how many times you have to do that to make up the cost of the rent of that place? It's just not worth it to me to have a game store. I think that the whole game store or LGS structure is slowly crippling. There's less and less game stores. One of my favorite game stores that I used to go to shut down during COVID. Yeah, there are some new stores that opened up and here and there, but for the most part, people don't really want to open up game stores because people aren't really buying singles. I mean, they're buying sealed product. Obviously, people are buying sealed Pokemon cards, right? They're clearly buying sealed Pokemon cards. That's not the question. But opening up packs as a game store, selling singles, like right now, singles are pretty cheap. I mean, it really depends on what singles you're talking about. Magic reserve list cards are still pretty expensive. But there's still a lot of things that you can do beside, in the community, besides going to game stores, besides running game stores. Discord is fine. I have no problem with Discord. Discord has their own host of issues, pros and cons to every platform, as always. But I would say, for me personally, I have stopped going to local game stores. I've had bad experiences with people just the experience of human beings in general. Like, there's going to be bad human beings out there, and statistically you're going to find good people and you're also going to find bad people in game stores. I am way more comfortable playing Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh with people I know because I know them. Go to a game store, make a few friends, find out who you're tight with, who you're close with. Be friends with them outside of the game store, because eventually the game stores that I went to, they all shut down because of COVID or whatever. And I just ended up staying friends with the people that I was close with. So that's what this video is really about. You know, the fact that game stores are kind of at a low right now. I would say that they're at a low, and I'm not saying I'm never going to go to a game store. I think if you really enjoy your game store, it's important that you want to support them. I'm totally fine with that. But if the game store is evil and they're doing these things that are like mentioned in this post, then it's just not worth it. So anyway, I know this is a kind of a long video, but hopefully you get something out of it. And yeah, I'll try to put out more content in the future. See you later.